Welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I'm Alex. Today we're looking at a paper from the Hugging Face trending list, published on September 4th, 2025, just 2 days ago. The standout result is an active learning framework that avoids wasting effort on intractable, correlated aleatoric noise, and, in batched settings, outperforms canonical methods like BALD and least confidence. The paper is titled, When 3 Experiments Are Better Than 2, Avoiding Intractable Correlated Aleatoric Uncertainty by Leveraging a Novel Bias minus Variance Tradeoff. And, as we will see later, the implications for lab-in-the-loop experimentation are quite significant. In short, the method combines difference-based acquisition, a Cobias and covariance decomposition, quadratic bias estimation, and spectral batching to prioritize truly reducible error. On X, one post highlights that much of active learning skips modeling bias and noise in experimental systems, then showcases plots illustrating how bias and variance shrink across rounds. The reaction shows about 140 likes, which signals solid interest for a technical topic. The previous figure set the stage with the high-level motivation. Figure 1 contrasts the model's predictive distribution with noisy oracle realizations, then tracks what happens at a single input as training rounds increase. The lower violins depict epistemic spread in purple and aleatoric spread in green, which separates reducible uncertainty from irreducible noise. The gaps labeled delta show bias shrinking across rounds, while the purple bars contract until they match the green, so additional experiments would mostly chase noise. The previous figure highlighted how bias and variance evolved across rounds. Table 1 now lists the acquisition choices side by side, which clarifies how each strategy targets reducible error. The base column names random, least confidence, bias reduction, and PEMSE, and the middle column gives their standard scoring rules. The right column introduces the difference versions that prioritize where scores drop between rounds, so experiments focus on regions with improving error rather than stubborn noise. So the previous figure contrasted scoring rules. Table 2 organizes the noise settings used in the experiments. The table lists 3 types: none, uncorrelated, and correlated, and it specifies both a general form and a concrete toy model. The uncorrelated case sets cross-location noise products to 0, which means each measurement jitters independently. The correlated case ties noise across inputs through an exponential correlation, so batched observations can share disturbances. This structure matters because the selection method targets reducible error while avoiding regions dominated by shared aleatoric fluctuations. Alright, the previous table described the noise regimes. Figure 2 presents learning curves that compare acquisition strategies across the 3 noise types, with the top row starting from 10 points and the bottom row starting from 100. The solid red and dashed red curves, which reflect PEMSE and its difference version, drop fastest for noisy settings because they target reducible error rather than raw variance. The blue bias reduction curves also improve strongly, while green least confidence and black random lag. Okay, the previous figure showed learning curves across noise types. Figure 3 lays out the end-to-end active learning loop, which starts by initializing a dataset and training a model distribution, then computes point-wise error metrics, or the Cobias and covariance terms in red. The pipeline then estimates those quantities for unlabeled inputs and forms an acquisition score, so selection targets reducible error. The bottom branch gathers oracle labels and updates the training set before repeating, which supports either single point or batch selection. So the previous pipeline sketched where bias and covariance estimates enter the loop. Figure 4 presents 6 learning curves that compare estimation strategies for Cobias, with the top row starting from 10 points and the bottom row from 100. The orange quadratic strategy lines drop fastest, which signals that quadratic bias estimation plus PEMSE drives means squared error down most reliably. The green sheet baseline unsurprisingly performs best, while blue not available trails because it ignores bias structure. The middle and right columns remain noisier under Type 2 and Type 3 settings, yet the quadratic approach stays competitive. So the previous figure compared estimation strategies. Figure 5 evaluates how those choices translate into mean squared error under different acquisition and batching schemes. The 6 panels show random, PEMSE, and difference PEMSE along the x-axis, with box plots summarizing ensembles. The quadratic Cobias estimator consistently lowers error, and pairing it with eigendecomposition batching performs best, especially under noisy Type 2 and Type 3 settings. The dotted line marks random selection, which many quadratic variants beat comfortably, so targeting reducible error clearly pays off. Wrapping up, 2 takeaways stand out. prioritize reducible error by tracking how point-wise error drops between rounds, and use quadratic Cobias estimation with eigendecomposition batching to steer clear of correlated noise. The broader implication is smarter lab-in-the-loop experiments that waste fewer measurements. That is it for this episode of the AI Research Roundup. I am Alex. Thanks for listening.